Message from a new player to the devs. Hello, dear devs of Crossout. I am a very loyal War Thunder player with above 5K hours. I have started playing Crossout around 2 to 3 weeks ago and must say it's fun, but hear me out. It's one of the most noob-unfriendly game which I have ever played. Power scores are a good thing, but they don't really work because you can just be naked and still put purple and gold weapons on your vehicle and proceed to be in low power score battles. You want new players to stay and enjoy the game? They choose, after a few hours, if it's worth staying or not. There is tons of quests and challenges to do, but barely to no reward. They are stuck on especially gray weapons for ages, and when they reach the blue equipment, they end up against absolute seal clubbers. I don't know if you have been around in the 5K power score lately, but it's always the same guys that go with Raijin or Spike Crossbow to one-shot new players which literally drive around with blue equipment. Not to mention the absurd prices for your vehicle packs or premium account. In War Thunder, I can at least do events, earn vehicles, ships, and planes/jets, and sell them to make a ton of coins. And that just for playing a bit. Obviously, there is parts of this community that be like, stop crying. Get good! But I recently posted a picture in this sub where you can clearly see that this game used to have around 9K players, which is down to 3K now. There should be a big meeting which the Crossout devs should do to think how to keep players. And yes, I also mean new players. The veterans always stay. Power scores are, in my opinion, just abused by people, and there should be a category for either gray-blue weapons or new, straight-up new players. Anyway, I wish a good day evening. The ridiculously slow progression is a massive issue. They want to encourage people to buy packs, but people aren't rewarded enough to stick around to want to buy anything. The packs don't even give playable vehicles. They're art builds. It's sad, man, and I totally agree with your points. 2 months ago, I finally got friends to try the game thanks to a bunch of free packs available. They also had a startup kit when the DLED that was free. That was a massive jump start, and now the 4 of us are playing clan confrontations. They all have builds that can reach 12 kps, which really impresses me for only a couple months of work. The seal clubbing is a huge issue and one that doesn't make sense to me. I figure it's people that can't compete where they actually belong, so they make these cheese cars to bully new starts to get a taste of victory. It's sad. After playing myself through the starting stages with my friends recently, the only fixes I can imagine working are bracketed item limitations for low PSQ. The problem, and also why it isn't set up like that, is because there isn't enough people getting into the game in the first place. I believe there is a perfect ratio of profit versus retention. I think they don't care about the early game because if 25% of new starts just throw money to skip the early game, they are happy regardless. They birth one new whale out of 4 to 5 people. Sure, 75% of new starts quit the game, but that doesn't matter to them anyways. What I can say is they really helped new players compared to how hard it was when I started. There were no free packs, and the grind was actually grindier. So they have tried in some ways. I just fear it isn't enough. This game's grind is very front-loaded, as progression doesn't get better until one can craft for profit, which requires many levels across several factions, and the faction grind is slow. Normally, new players are in their separate quayi until level 30, but this doesn't apply if player count is down, so that doesn't help either. Then, there's the issue of the stronger structure parts being through badge exchange, which forces new players to either miss out on the parts or miss out on coins. This is better than it was before. They used to be from faction prestige levels, but is still not ideal. About the only thing you can reasonably do for now is get the free packs, which will give you some specials, and maybe consider using decor and flags to help the faction grind a little. Funny thing is, now majority of items are not able to be crafted for profit because of the tax they take out in the market. But even so, there are tons of items over the years where it was no cheaper to build than to buy. Every item I'm thinking about now gets analyzed to see if it's any cheaper to buy outright than to build. The nerfs that happen make weapons invested downright useless, more so if you have them fused because you can no longer sell them. It's truly a game that has massive potential, but it's dying because of the way it's being developed. It's truly disheartening. Without the taxes, inflation would have wrecked the market 5+ years ago. It until the last year or two was wrecking the market. The main issue with crafting to sell for profit. The player base drops. Turns out a market that's supposed to be player-driven doesn't work well when the player base numbers are low, and it's hard for new players to catch up to vets, because BP items are limited crafting instead of permanent recipes like they originally were, something that contributed to the original BPs being so much value for only 10 USD. The power score system is poisoned by previously existing systems in other games like World of Warcraft or Destiny that assign numbers that do actually indicate more power generally. But that only really works for individual items, not an assembled build in WoW, Destiny, or XO. Once you get to assemblies, a poorly assembled build that doesn't take advantage of mechanics can have the same power score rating as a solid build taking maximum advantage of synergies and good design practices. Crossout holds no hands, leaving it an exercise for the player to understand that they should build for effectiveness per power score, and that simply increasing PS for PS sake is a bad idea in this system. Grind sucks. Always has. The game is more enjoyable if you approach it with a casual attitude. There's no esports component, no tournaments, and just like with the other mentioned games, balance is more difficult to achieve at the high end, especially because Crossout building is far more complex than WoW or Destiny building. They don't give even a quarter of a fuck. My question is, why some normal game developer won't make a similar game, but make it right, without pay-win P2P, or you want to call it? It'd be so popular. Because a game like XO is not only generally much harder to balance, in a character shooter buffing, nerfing an ability or a weapon type that's too strong will be relatively easy. Now do that when there's 3 legs with dramatically different characteristics with a 4th on the way. Wheels are mainly differentiated by perk, size, and stats. You have multiple track parts that are all suited to different roles, so on and so on. But also offers incredibly limited opinions for monetization if you don't resort to nickel and diming your player base. A game like Fortnite or any character shooter has emotes, skins, weapon skins, effects, temporary partnerships with brands, etc., etc. And all of that can be easily slapped onto a wider range of whatever compared to what XO does, where relics for the longest time were just a unique or different type of weapon in a class, or where rarity is, more often than not, a side grade to specialize in a particular area than an actual upgrade over. Weapons in XO are highly unique, to the point that someone paying attention can learn the sounds and act solely based on that information alone. In another game, that'd probably be a standard sound for each weapon class, and to change that for an alternate cosmetic sound costs RL money. Fusion is the only way to upgrade your weapons and items directly in XO. In most other such games, that's just a part of a standard upgrade tree that involves you spending resources on upgrading those parts, and you will hit a point where it's a massive grind to do anything because of a time or resource cost where fusion being the goal of someone with more money than sense keeps the baseline for items at ground level. XO for the longest time did the opposite of the standard live service model, and it did well for that balance issues aside. Currently, it's doing what everything else is doing, but unlike other games with more options to lighten what gets worse for players. XO lacks those options, hence the nickel and diming that the devs are doing as they go wailing. XO devs reply, "Hello, dear noob. It looks like you haven't bought our new season pass yet. That might be your problem, KHXBOY. If you mortgage your house and keep playing it low, you should be fine after a couple of 100 hours to get all the parts from Badgie Exchange." Wow, good points made. It's true, to grind this game without paying would take years. That said, I love this game and have been playing 2 years and will to the end. It has a strong core base, and you almost need someone to take you under their wing and show you the way. I hope the devs continue to attract new players, as it's the lifeblood of any game. I hope the player decrease has bottomed. Veterans, stop seal clubbing and support new players. It's a community, and we need to help be part of the solution, rather than just expect devs to be perfect. Stick with it and see you in the wasteland. Shut the fuck up, the devs. I mean, the fact they haven't added the free starter packs in-game tells you enough. We have to tell new players in chat all day long. Crossout could easily have 5x the number of players. Raijin is the perfect example. Just make a quick buck without any care how it negatively affects the game. I am already starting to go back to other games. Never lose perspective on what video gaming means to you. It is about playing enjoyable games. It is not about acquiring new imaginary items. I say get out while you can. The game is a sham, and the devs screw over the entire player base time and time again. They don't care about any of this because the whales with very little to no brain cells at all keep throwing money at the game, and that's all the devs care about. This may well be true, but the devs' greed is killing the game. The player base has dropped big time in the last couple of years. New players don't stay, and old players like me, over 5,000 hours, have stopped playing because of the stupidity. This is a problem since forever. I guess enough people had friend join the game just to find out it is no fun to start in this game. My friends left as soon as seal clubbing started, not just higher-tier weapons, but fused parts too. Especially tough since some things are not clear, like shoot-through parts being used as armor or gun mounting. While I do agree with you, there are certain weapons, for instance, the crossbow build you came across, that are only effective in low PS. Something like Caucasus only works in 4K PSIsh. If you go higher, then they'll be striped fast. As an example, I hate Caucasus. My idea is don't hard-limit weapon what PS they can be at, but add a debuff called Effective Power Score. Let's start with Raijin, its 22 energy cannon that quite powerful. Its effective power score is 7K 9K. If the craft it's on is lower, then it hurts its performance, 10%. DMG plus 10%, charge time 10%, durability 10%, perk effectiveness, all percent values in a perk. If the craft it's on is higher, then it boosts its performance, 10%, MGG 10%, charge time plus 10%, durability 10%, perk effectiveness, all percent values in a perk. The problem with this is that the devs already struggles with game balance. This would add an additional level of complexity for them. How would they decide effective power score? It can't just be by rarity. What parameters would they adjust if it goes under or above this, and what percentages would be adjusted, and by how much? It can't just be the same percent for everything. Balance doesn't have to be complicated. In Raijin's case, it's simple. Just bring its energy cost in line with other cannon builds. Quasar, Hulks, Fat Man, etc. requires 24 energy for 2, so why does Ragin only require 22? It's supposed to be equivalent to a full weapon setup, yet uses less energy. This is what's allowing it to be in power scores far lower than it has any right to be in. And you missed something. The game has 7 to 9 years and still doesn't have South American servers. I don't play that much because you need to play a lot only to get a blue weapon. It cost me about 1 entire month if I play every single day, only to go from level 24 to 25. Legendary and epic gear have very little power points. 400 for a fin whale is absurd. I agree with your point. Tryhards and grinders cause a new player to leave the game. Yeah, that's pretty much the experience. I also have over 5K hours in War Thunder, and 3K in this game. I've tried several times to get friends into this game, but they don't last more than a few weeks. We have a clan that tries to help out new players, but still, it's the same experience. New players realize what the grind is, and they lose interest. Sadly, this is a game where spending $10 to $20 will take months off of that grind, so it's more of a necessity than it is in WT to whip the wallet out. From a grind perspective, to get ahead in this game, you really need to be part of a clan. But clans are limited to 20 players, not the 128 or whatever it is in WT. Clans that are trying to get weekly badges are only going to keep players that are active in confrontation, or at least able to achieve a certain score goal. To reach that goal, you're probably going to need special/epic parts minimum. You might get lucky solo-ching at 5K with whatever your PvP build is, and run into players that are at your LVL, but if you're playing against people that have played this game for years, you're free RP. In my humble opinion, waiting time for matchmaking at low PS would be impacted if there was some kinds of discrimination of player according to a rank or a rarity of weapons used. There could be a low PS confrontation that would have to be a 4v4 format in order to expect matchmaking delay not to be affected too much. Well, something at least, because right now it's simply pure pain for new players. LOL! Crossout is the game I compare WT when people complain War Thunder has a poor economy. Welcome to Pain Game Plus. Sorry, kiddo. You are yelling at the wind. I'm really sorry, but get in line of frustrated people who just had to accept it is what it is or quit. I feel what you feel, but nothing to do here. Maybe a 3-month strike in their offices with all the player base LOL and throwing paint at their cars and some vandalism, but that won't happen ever. So, devs hate new players for some reason. It's self-sabotaging game design. I wish this game was any other publisher than Greedjin. It would be nice to have a level-based system. If you are a certain level of all factions combined, it would put you in lobbies with players that match with you. Very much like skill-based matchmaking, but it gives the new players a chance to play with people on their faction level. That doesn't account for the differences like a whale who is a noob fusing their gear or a long-time vet not caring about fusing their gear. Because the game already does a basic system with the engineers, there are 3 player pools. 10, 30, ET. That is meant to keep newer players from going against players that have been playing for years. Through it can ignore that if it's taking long enough.